Welcome to the Best Things Podcast. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on all the socials at Best Things Pod as well. Now, here are your hosts, Craig and Aaron.
Hello, Internet. Welcome into the Best Things Podcast. My name is Craig. Sitting next to me, as always, is Aaron Brooks. Happy November, Aaron.
We're here.
We're here.
Oh,
according to you.
yeah.
I think you wonder if people are getting tired of us talking about this topic.
I don't think so.
The months, the fall. Can you tell we like the fall and the holiday season? My goodness.
It's the best.
We are. It is the best. But we're here. We've made it. The end of the year is nigh. And hopefully you're having a great day, a great week. Maybe you're listening to this and it's the beginning of the year. That's also a possibility.
Oh, yeah. You were so busy during the last couple months of the year that you put us on hold.
Yeah.
And now you're just catching up.
Well, welcome. Welcome into the podcast. We're glad you're here. Listen, we don't ever do this enough, but let's talk to the new people. Like, if you're listening to this for the first time, then welcome into the Best Things universe. We've got a lot of different variants that are floating around, I guess. I don't know what I'm talking about.
This is like Loki?
Yeah, I guess so. It's me and Aaron, and we talk about stuff, the most random topics that you can think of, but it's topics that are important to you. It's things that you didn't know you needed to know which one was the best at.
We have both claimed at different times that we feel like we both have a pretty good base of useless knowledge built up.
Yeah.
And there has to be an outlet for that.
That's true.
Our wives don't necessarily appreciate it all the time, like you do.
Yeah, you're listening and watching because you care about what we have to say, and we thank you for that. I get asked all the time, like, why did you guys? How did you guys get started, and why did you guys start doing your podcast? I'm like, dude, these are just conversations we were already just having.
I told somebody that last week. They were like, so how did you guys figure out how to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I said, we rode around in a vehicle years ago for many hours and would argue and discuss things. And so a lot of this is just, it's very natural. They were like, you guys really, it seems natural when you're talking. It doesn't feel forced. I'm like, it's not. This is what we do when we were off camera. We were like, you know what? People want to hear this.
Yeah. A lot of our episodes are based on text conversations, that lists we send each other saying, hey, this should be,
So if you want to know what our lives are like, we live this all the time.
All the time. And today, oh boy.
This one is, we've been excited for this one for a while.
This is definitely one of those things we live, eat, and breathe.
It has been on the idea board for a couple of months.
It has, and we're excited to bring it to you. You already know what it is because you probably snuck a peek at the episode title. We're talking about cows. We're talking about beef.
Yeah.
We're talking about bull. Man, I love beef, and we've got some clips here to kind of set up to give you a vibe of what we're doing with here. This one is iconic.
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Places give you a lot less beef.
From the, I guess it was 80s. The Wendy's commercial from the 80s. Where's the beef?
Yeah.
I watched the whole commercial and it's hilarious. I mean, there's a reason it was a great campaign.
I remember as a kid in the late 90s, early 2000s, I would watch a lot of old shows on TV Land, and a lot of times they would run retro commercials.
Oh, yeah.
And this would be one of them.
Yeah. That old lady was so
love
crotchety.
the Where's the Beef commercial.
Of course, this one in the 90s was also great.
You can have a great beef dinner in no time at all. Well, almost no time at all. Beef. It's what's for dinner.
Oh, man, that lives rent-free in my head from the 90s, man.
Yeah,
that was always on.
And then I think Sam Elliott has taken over that spot.
Are they still doing it?
I feel like they have.
That's good.
Beef.
He sounds...
He fits the mold.
Perfect for it. So we're talking about beef. We're talking about... there's a lot of stuff to cover here. So we're going to give a lot of our opinions, our favorite hacks. We always love talking about food. That's one of those things that we just love to talk about. We're both foodies, and beef is one of those things, man. I think we both grew up on it, eating it all the time, different ways of having it, creative ways of having it. And we live in a world where there's just a lot of resource around it now. So, all right, I can't wait anymore. Let's go ahead. Let's dive in.
Before we can figure out the best thing, we have to talk about all the things. It's time for The Thing About the Things.
Okay. Now, you said right before we hit record on this, because we behind the scenes here, we record as often as we can. We try to record multiple episodes at a time. And so for us, like, we just got done doing a Halloween episode. And Cookies is one episode away from being a bestie for the restie. And the minute that episode, we finished hitting record, Aaron said what?
That my prediction is Cookies does not make our bestie for the restie Hall of Fame. Their dominant reign ends this week.
And
it makes me a little sad in a way, but when I think about what could replace it, I'm thinking, oh boy, that's going all the way.
There are probably a few things that will make the bracket that could probably take out Cookies, don't you think? There's probably not just one.
Yeah.
There's probably a handful of them.
It almost doesn't feel like a fair fight.
It's really not. Which, if you remember, a few weeks ago, Aaron thought that chocolate chip cookies would run the table. He thought it would go 5 straight.
I did.
We did not anticipate beef coming up on episode 4 of its reign, but here we are.
I mean, we could have rigged this
where
it went, but that's not what we do. We don't rig things.
We could have done vegetables today.
I know. Like kale. Is kale going to take out chocolate chip cookies? Ooh.
No.
No, it's not. What are we going to do? We're going to throw beef up against chocolate chip cookies. Yeah. We're going to, you know.
This is like the NCAA tournament. Everybody gets everybody's best shot, and just the chocolate chips fall as they may.
The chocolate chip cookies are a 1 seed. There is 100%. No doubt. They're going up against another.
This is a Final Four matchup.
This is a national championship matchup. That's true. You know, it's that big.
Yeah. Okay, so the way we like to do stuff here is we like to take a list we found off the internet, and we use that as a base to kind of guide the episode. And so today, a very popular website that I know all of you have heard of before, CloverMeadowsBeef.com.
It's one of my favorite websites.
Yeah, we've totally visited this site before today. No, we're just using this as a guide to kind of show. They go through how many different ways? 7 different ways to cook beef. So we're just kind of using this as a guide and saying, okay, let's use this and figure out. What types of beef we can talk.
It's just going to steer us down this old cattle trail, you might say.
Give us the first method.
Well, it's sort of a combo method here that they discuss, and that's braising and stewing beef.
Yeah.
And if you're not a foodie, I hope by the end of today's episode, we have set you out on a journey.
It's an educational podcast. We want you to know some stuff.
Sometimes I feel like we just have fun. But today,
no fun.
This is all about education.
Yeah.
And you're gonna leave here, and you're gonna be. You know what? I want some beef for dinner tonight.
You know, we've talked on this pod before. Like there are so many things that I think we grew up with, our parents grew up with eating that have a bad rep or something like that, or there was just not as much of a foodie culture as there is now.
No.
And braising and stewing is one of those things. Like the kid version of Craig hears stew and braise and thinks, oh man, this is going to be overcooked, or it's going to be, it's going to be mushy or something like that. These two things can be done beautifully and lots of flavor.
And I think both of these methods are gaining in popularity once again
100%.
As people are embracing a food culture. I want everybody to prepare themselves for a word. You may want to plug your ears if you hear this, as I know this can kind of cause some people to cringe. But when we talk about braising and stewing beef, these are moist.
These are. That's the best way to describe it.
You're cooking with liquid here.
Yeah.
Okay. And these can be very easy ways to cook beef. If you don't have a lot of time and you're very busy, this is a very hands-off method that you can use to cook beef.
And this was one of the reasons why I think so many families have it with kids, because it's an easy thing. You put it on in the morning, and by the time dinner rolls around, it's ready to go.
Crock pot, instant pot.
Yeah.
It's built for these.
But I also think way back in the day, they were also, this is pre us, obviously, pre our parents even. They were doing this to cook out the bacteria and cook out things that could harm them. You're talking Depression era. A lot of these recipes probably came from Depression era stuff, and so they're overcooking it. They're taking it way past where it needs to be. They're taking it into well done beef, where some of these things don't need to go that far, and you can get better quality bites out of the dishes.
And something else that. One of the things I think that makes braising and stewing beef a popular method is that you don't have to break the bank on buying a cut of beef.
It's true.
Because what you are doing, this is built for taking tough pieces of meat and making them more tender.
Yeah.
So, I can't afford a filet mignon. You don't need a filet mignon. Go. A lot of times, the butchers will take these tough cuts. Mm-hmm. They know these are some of the prime pieces of meat that they want to save because they're gonna do this to it.
And it's funny how in our foodie culture that we live in today, some of these that used to be considered the lesser cuts of beef are now like sought after. Like you can do so much with them, and they're high quality and they're delicious.
Well, for an example, and we're going to talk about it later, but burnt ends, which come off of the brisket,
right?
Those used to be pieces of meat that were given away at restaurants. And now, if you go buy brisket and you go somewhere and you're looking to get burnt ends, it's become such a phenomenon that you're going to pay top dollar for what was a very, uncared for piece of, steak.
So some of the cuts that are often used when it comes to braising and stewing, you're talking brisket. Okay, so we often think of brisket usually in barbecue.
Yep.
But brisket was probably, best known for a long time, especially in different cultures.
The Jewish culture, for example.
Exactly, yeah.
They do a lot of braised brisket, cook it in the oven.
Short ribs. Oh, man. I love braised short ribs.
I was at the store the other day, and there was a pack of beef short ribs there that they were just screaming at me. Like, take me home.
They're so good. That has become Lauren and I's one of our go-to. If we want to have a nice home-cooked meal, I will sit there and we'll braise short ribs for the day. And, man, they're just good.
Braised short ribs. This is a dish that is insanely good. It's a braised short rib with like a cola reduction sauce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With some cheesy polenta or grits.
I love polenta. Lauren likes mashed potatoes. Also great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You do that with maybe some roasted Brussels or something.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking a fine dining $50 plate.
Oh, yeah.
That you can cook at home
100%.
for $20.
Yeah. The first time I made it myself at home, I was expecting, this was for a fancy date night here at home, a stay-in date night, and I'm like, we're going to do, because we had braised short ribs on vacation one time. They were fantastic. They were expensive. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go all out for like Valentine's Day or something. I went to the butcher here in town, and I'm like, all right, it's gonna be expensive. And I looked like those short ribs were like super cheap, and I'm like, I'm getting off easy on this thing because this is a cut of beef that for historically people didn't really care that much about because it's got some fat in it. It's attached to the bone. But it's delicious when done right. When you season it well. When you prepare it throughout, you got to let it go low and slow.
Yep.
You got to make sure to take your time with it. This is not a fast meal, but man, it's good.
Here we are in November. We're in the fall season. This is a wonderful time. People love their soups and their chowders and their stews. I mean, beef stew is just a classic warming dish. Mm-hmm. There have been very bad beef stews that I've had. You can really overcook it. One of the guys I like to watch on YouTube, J. Kenji Lopez Alt. He does an entire video on beef stew and how to make it without just overcooking and drying out the beef, because it's something you got to cook for a long period of time, but you can do it without just completely destroying the beef that's there.
Getting a good sear on it. before you throw it in there.
That's a key.
Super important.
Some people just throw the meat into the, pot, uncooked,
Yeah.
naked. It trust me.
Yeah. Maillard reactions, all the stuff going on.
You brown that meat up a little bit first.
And then you cook your veggies in the fond. Oh, I mean, just you're layering it on, flavors on flavors on flavors.
And see, that's the thing. A lot of people think cooking is really difficult, and it's not. There's 2 or 3 YouTube channels you can watch, and these guys make it very simple. And I think a very inexperienced cook can be making high quality food at home.
Oh yeah,
within a week or 2.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not tough.
If you can follow a recipe, you can make great stuff. You just gotta take the time to do it. This is most good meals. There are obviously good meals you can make that are quick and easy, but most good meals take some time.
Yeah.
There's a little prep involved. Make sure you've got everything in place, mise en place, right? And make sure everything in place, and then just stay on track, and you're good. You're good to go.
A nice pot roast.
Yeah.
That's another classic dish. These were things, I think, back in the Depression era up into the 50s and 60s. These were kind of popular dishes that kind of became less popular over the years. And I feel like they're starting to become a little more popular again as people are going back to those.
It's revisiting something like, okay, this was maybe not great as a kid. How can I, now that I know what I'm doing, how can I make it better?
Yes.
I know we're not talking about vegetables as much today, but asparagus is one of those things. Like my parents even have told me, like, hey, look, we were taught, like, you had to cook the mess out of those things because they could be poisonous. Like, they were told to just
boil vegetables
until it was just completely mush. And man, a snappy, charred piece of asparagus is one of the best vegetables you can have.
When you roast, saute, grill vegetables, you bring all sorts of different flavors to it.
Yeah.
I hated Brussels, broccoli, asparagus when I was a kid.
Love them all.
Now, and I still don't like boiled.
Right, yeah, exactly.
It still turns me off. I think of buffets or cafeteria type food, where it's like, it just came out of a can and it's been heated.
Boiled
that's not
Brussels
good.
sprouts.
Take your time and show some care and some love to those vegetables, and they're amazing.
Vegetables and beef, what we're going to talk about today, a little burnt is good. A little char is delicious.
Yep.
Embrace it.
Okay, I want to ask you, as we go through here, I got some little stats. I'm going to throw in a little fun here,
I love stats.
Break up this. If you had to guess right now how many cattle live in the United States.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What's the number of cattle in the U.S.?
I'm going to guess there's a lot. We're probably up there when it comes to global populations of cattle. I'm going to say 792 million.
792 million.
Yes. I'm way over, aren't I?
You are way over. You shot for the moon.
I did.
We actually only have 8% of the world's cattle.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Is that surprising to know?
Very surprising to know.
As of January 1st of 2020, there were right at 95 million head of cattle.
Oh, wow.
In the U.S. herd, which is it's less than going on a billion where he was at. But let's come back to reality and realize that is more cattle than the population of California, Texas, Florida, and Mississippi combined.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's a lot of cows.
There is. I always do. Anytime you're throwing a number out there, I tend to go like way over. I guess I'm expecting to be blown away as you come back down to earth.
So, yeah. Kind of ruined my setup there for that.
I wonder how many are in Texas alone. Like, because Texas has got to have
the lion's
share.
They are one of the top 5 states.
Yeah.
Do you have a guess at what the other 4 in the top 5 are that raise cattle?
Cattle. I'm going to guess Wyoming. No, Montana. California. Gosh, I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to give you Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. Kansas. Gosh, I think you're just doing it now. I think these stats are incorrect. You're just I don't know. Nevada,
Missouri.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't see that one coming.
We'll eventually get through all 50 of these, and he'll whittle it down.
Okay, I'm thinking Middle America.
You're on the right track.
Yeah, Ohio, Indiana.
Nope.
Good gosh.
Give you the fourth one now.
Nebraska.
Yep, there's
Okay.
the fourth one. And the last of the top 5, I don't think you're going to see this one coming.
Louisiana.
Well, no. We wouldn't have saw that one coming.
Florida.
Vermont!
Yeah. What is it? Is it Vermont?
It's not.
Oh, I was like, I thought
South Dakota.
Oh, okay. I kind of get it.
But a lot of the Midwest there, outside of Texas.
Yeah.
But from, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri,
I was thinking
Nebraska.
Montana or Wyoming just because I think of cattle ranches.
There's a lot
and
of cattle there.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're driving through those states, you see a lot.
It's
of
got to be
ranches.
like 6th or 7th on that list.
I would think so.
All right, you got anything else for braising or stewing? Well, I wanted to ask you what your favorite is, but I guess we'll get to that in the bracket later on.
Of those varieties,
Yeah.
no, I think we could. Obviously, braised short ribs would be there.
That's just so good. That's got to be that's going to be up there. For sure.
Beef stew, or Julia Child made famous the beef bourguignon, which is sort of a beef stew.
Yeah.
Those would both be in my braised, stewed category. I'm trying to look through. I had a list pulled up here.
Of course, we're not going to mention everything because there's a lot of stuff you can do. You can put beef in a lot of dishes. We're talking mostly beef forward dishes. I would say. Okay, the next category then we're going on to the baking category,
which doesn't just immediately
it doesn't
baked beef.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, that doesn't sound good. But then let me throw 2 words at you.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Prime rib.
Oh, that's not where I was going. I was thinking beef Wellington.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Prime rib is great. It's not my favorite. I don't know that it would make my bracket, but it's really good. Really good prime rib is really good.
Okay, and here's what I was going to say. When it comes to prime rib, I think we get a lot of bad prime rib.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of places do prime rib very well.
Yeah. I agree. I think that gets used as fancy, as a cop-out for fancy at a lot of places.
Yes.
They'll take a cut of beef, they'll bake it, and just at a buffet, at like a Golden Corral, they'll have a prime rib station. Like, that's not going to be good prime rib.
No. And I threw prime rib in here at baking, but from what I have seen, prime rib really includes baking, broiling, and roasting. All 3 of those are involved in prime rib.
That's true.
I mean, it could be in any of those categories, but as far as baked beef, the 2 things I think of, well, there's actually a third one that I think of. You said one of them.
Beef Wellington?
Yes.
Yeah.
Something I have not had.
I haven't either. Not a real one, at least.
But there is one person that makes beef Wellington that causes me to want to go to a restaurant and try it.
Yeah. One Gordon Ramsay.
Absolutely.
Well known for his beef Wellington. And if you watch Hell's Kitchen or MasterChef or anything like that, like, he has a high standard when it comes to 3 things: beef Wellington, scallops, and risotto. And beef welly, man, is one of those things. He is a stickler on it, but it sounds so delicious. It looks delicious. You got pastry, you've got beef, you've got mushrooms,
and see, I'm not a big fan of mushrooms, but I look at this and I'm like, I would absolutely eat that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So you have this beef tenderloin. For those that don't know, you slather it in mustard. You create this duxelle, which is a mushroom. Sort of like a, what would you call it? Not a relish, but
no,
it's this mushroom mixture.
Yeah, it's just like a paste to go on it. It helps hold the pastry on there.
And then you have puff pastry.
Yeah,
that you wrap all of that in.
It's umami-y. It's beefy. It's flaky. It's just, it sounds so appealing.
It does.
It sounds so great, and I can't wait to try it. Have you been tempted to make it?
I have. I was going to say, one of our nights needs to be a beef Wellington.
Yeah, we need to go all fancy.
We just need to do it.
Okay, you're going to have to help educate a little bit. Okay, baking and roasting. Because they're both using an oven, right?
Yes.
Tell us the main difference between the two, because when it comes to like beef, I'm like, okay, what's really the difference in these two? Is one lower and slower and one's higher heat?
See, I would say that roasting would involve a higher, more intense heat.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to look down through here. I don't know. I may be
wrong. It says it right here. Okay, roasting is done with higher heats.
Yep.
And with foods that is with foods with a definite structure.
Okay.
So I guess baking would be probably also a casserole.
So I was going to say shepherd's pie is one of the beef dishes. When I think of baked food, that's one of the first things I would think of is shepherd's pie.
Yeah.
And you've got your ground beef or maybe traditionally lamb layer topped with mashed potatoes. You're going to put that in the oven. You're going to bake it, 350 degrees for 40 minutes.
Yeah. What are some other casseroles? I'm trying to think of casseroles that include beef. There's not going to...
How about, lasagna?
Yeah.
It's got beef in it.
Yeah, I get, yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't know a lot of baked
beef. It's definitely probably
beef.
the least popular methods for beef.
Yeah. Outside of shepherd's pie, again, if we're just talking lasagna, I don't think you say beef. Most people think, oh, lasagna.
Yeah.
It has beef in it.
Right.
But a lot of your casseroles, which is technically what shepherd's pie would be.
Yeah.
And I know you're not a big casserole person.
I'm not a big casserole person.
What about shepherd's pie?
I like it. I like a shepherd's pie. It's got to be super flavorful, and it's got to have a good crust.
We did a shepherd's
crust
pie
is important for me.
a year or so ago, where we bought the high-end European butter for the mashed potatoes and a 3-year-old aged Australian white cheddar cheese that was into the mash. The beef was super flavorful. In fact, I think I ground my own beef for that one.
Really?
It was really good.
Yeah.
Baked it and then stuck those mashed potatoes. We piped the mashed potatoes on and had nice ridges.
Yeah.
Because that creates some texture. And at the very end, broil that thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was good.
Give us our next category then. Speaking of getting something nice and
broiling
and crispy on top.
Yeah, broiling.
Indoor grilling, basically.
Yes.
Super high heat from above.
Be careful. I almost burned our house down one time by broiling. I was broiling some fish. And the pan, sometimes the pans kind of warp in the oven.
Yeah.
And this one called for what I thought was an extraordinary amount of oil.
Oh, yeah.
Turns out it was an extraordinary amount of oil because as the pan kind of warped, all the oil ran to one side of the pan.
Yeah.
And it called for the fish to be insanely close to that broiler. And oil and heat. Yeah. I had flames in the oven. Erica claims I was going to run out and let the house burn down because I didn't have my shoes on. And so I immediately ran to the door and put my shoes on. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to get my shoes on. She's like, no, you got to come put out the fire. And so she was freaking out. I'm like, no, I want my shoes on in case we do have to run out.
Yeah.
I have shoes. But then, we just took a lid and shut it on there and the fire was out. But
I don't find myself broiling a whole lot.
I didn't until recently. And one of the guys I like to follow on YouTube, Brian Lagerstrom, he broils the majority of his beef.
Really?
Even if it's ground. If he's using it, the last time we did it was in a meatloaf recipe. After he'd shaped his meatloaf, he broiled that thing hard for 15 minutes.
Really?
To really create this crust.
Some texture.
On the outside. And then we lowered the oven temperature and let that thing bake. But I've seen him do it where he crumbles
meatloaf and baking. We forgot about meatloaf.
Oh, boom. There it was. There it is. Yes, meatloaf. Probably the number one most well-known baked beef item. You guys were screaming. I was like, meatloaf, meatloaf. How do you forget meatloaf?
I
Yes.
had meatloaf last night.
Did you really?
Yes.
I had it on my list to even talk about.
I think I did.
Because I grew up not liking meatloaf.
Oh, I've always liked meatloaf.
I didn't.
A meatloaf sandwich
Okay.
is special.
As I have matured with my taste buds, I really do like meatloaf now. And I think maybe I just had some bad meatloafs.
Maybe.
People put oatmeal.
What?
You never had one with oatmeal in it?
No!
Because it needs a binder in there.
It does,
you know?
yeah. Breadcrumbs, soaked bread.
Yes. And the meatloaf recipe
Maybe
that we
crackers.
use now is really good. It doesn't have any oatmeal in it. Doesn't have any weird stuff. And I was more excited about eating the meatloaf the next day.
Oh, yeah.
Because I cut a nice thick slice of that, griddled it, put some cheddar cheese on it, made a sandwich. Dadgum, it was good.
We have started doing individual meatloafs.
Yes.
Instead of the full pan, we'll do they cook a little faster.
Absolutely.
And you get more crust.
More crust.
And
you put a glaze on it, you get more glaze to it.
Uh-huh.
So I think the individual meatloaf is the way to...
Yeah.
And one of the other reasons I didn't like meatloaf when I was a kid was because some of the meatloafs I would have, they would cook in like this loaf pan.
Yeah.
And then all the grease would just puddle up and pull around it. When we make meatloaf now, we shape the meatloaf as a whole or the individual ones, and we put them on a baking sheet instead of being contained in the pan, and the grease drains away.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
And that made meatloaf so much better in my book.
Another one we didn't mention that's pretty much the same thing, meatballs.
Dang it. I had that on my list to talk about.
Which are basically the same thing.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Yep.
You may use different seasonings if you're going the Italian route, but and you can do them on a pan too, but in an oven they're great.
We have done Italian meatballs. We've done Swedish meatballs. We've done Hawaiian meatballs.
Ooh.
You can kind of take the meatball and go anywhere you want with it.
Yeah.
But one of my absolute most favorite dishes is a meatball sub. And I always saute my meatballs first and then throw them into the oven.
Mm-hmm.
Those things bake.
Yeah.
Then a nice, Italian red sauce with some provolone cheese.
You gotta stop, man.
Little
I haven't had
real
lunch today.
Parmesan Reggiano.
Oh man.
Let me ask you about cheese.
Talk to me about cheese.
Okay.
That needs to be a whole other episode, by the way.
It does. We need to put cheese on the board. I bought a block of the good Parmesan Reggiano cheese. And I mean, the stuff's not cheap. I mean, it was like $23 for a 1 pound block of it. It's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But when you taste it next to one of the other little triangle parms that you can pick up at the grocery store, or you taste it next to the bottled of, Kraft Parmesan cheese.
Yeah.
It's not even close. Yeah. It's not even fair. I mean, it's like putting beef up against chocolate chip cookies. It blows it away.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things too. As we get to talking about different ways to make beef, or to prepare beef, obviously the less involved require the better source and the better cuts.
And the fewer ingredients there are,
exactly,
the more important it is to have a better quality of that ingredient.
Yeah, up to this point, we talked about casseroles, and we've talked about meatloaf, and we've talked about stews and braising. All of those require lots of other pieces and ingredients to... Now, you can make the beef shine in those, obviously, but to do them right, you're dealing with lesser qualities of beef to turn into something amazing. As we travel down this yellow brick road, we're going to find that just like the cheese, the better quality really shines through and starts to really make a difference.
Now, when it comes to broiling, you can cook steak in a broiler.
Yes, you can.
For the home cook, I don't think it's advisable for us to do that.
Unless you're living in an apartment and don't have access to an outdoor space, or you don't or you don't want your kitchen area or something like that smelling a lot and just going overboard with smoke and steam and stuff like that.
But you can go, there are some steak restaurants that broil.
Yeah.
Like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Right, yeah.
They're not just grilling the meat. Those are going into super high, like we can't get temperatures that high on our ovens. They're putting those things just inches from the broiler and broiling the mess out of those things. That's good broiled, meat.
Yeah.
What I could produce at home wouldn't be comparable to that, I don't think.
No, it really wouldn't. And, like Burger King.
I was going to say.
They're broiling their burgers.
Hardee's.
Yeah.
You've got those char-broiled.
Which are fantastic.
The
meat is good. We've made our opinions known about those two. Okay, speaking of that, the next category is the best way, maybe?
It's probably the way when you hear beef and cooking meat, this is probably the one that you think of.
Yeah. It's grilling. And this article says that grilling does not need much of an explanation. Like, you know what grilling is. You're probably listening to this episode, if you're not a regular listener, for this part of the episode because you saw the title beef. It's dry heat. You could opposite of broiling. Broiling is going over. Grilling is coming from below.
Yes.
And it's touching the surface. That's the big key and the big difference between those two.
Yes, that's true.
It's making contact.
Let's see. We've got one. Yeah, they didn't put that on here. So I want to add an addendum to this. When we think of grilling, I'm going to include smoking with this as well. Because grilling would be high heat, quickly. You're cooking this, you're grilling a steak. Smoking is low and slow for hours.
Yeah.
But they both take place on a grill/smoker.
Yep.
You're doing this outdoors. Brisket, you're doing in the smoke sense, you're going to cook it for 12, 14, 16, 18 hours.
Yeah.
Steak, you're going to cook it for, 10 minutes.
Yeah. Unless, man, a smoked steak is good too.
Yes.
You cook it low and slow, then you sear it off at the end, and whoo. And we could get lost in this. I mean, let's talk about steaks.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going
to do it. Which is automatically what a lot of us think of when we think of beef. I think it's most people's probably first thought. And there are different cuts of steak. And I don't know if you have those pulled up or you're planning on it, but there are lots of different cuts of steaks that you can go with. There are some that are going to be better than others. Some are cheaper. This is like what we've talked about. There are cheaper cuts that you can, it can be affordable, maybe an everyday type steak. But there are some that are worth the extra money. You may not think they are. If you've never had it, trust me, it is worth the money.
And in addition to the cuts are the grades of steak.
Yes.
That's something else.
That's
a lot of times
great point.
We don't really think about.
Yeah.
And that can definitely, you can get a higher cut of beef at a very low grade and still have a bad steak.
Yeah.
You can go get a New York strip, but if you get, what is it, select? Yeah, I think that's the lowest. If you get a select grade New York strip versus a prime cut of something else, you're going to be like, man, that thing is trash.
Yeah. So the three different ones, you got select, choice, and prime.
Yep.
Most of the time when you're going to Walmart, you're going to see choice. And then you're going to have a smaller selection of prime. I don't know that Walmart does select.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of places...
I don't see a lot of select.
A lot of places don't have select. The majority of the meat that you find in U.S. grocery stores is going to be the USDA-graded choice.
Yeah.
And it just seems like in the last few years, Walmart has started carrying the prime.
Yeah, yeah. They go it's the black carton. Is now
it's blue.
It's blue.
The blue carton.
So yeah, I mean you're talking that is going to be a better quality of beef, and it usually has to do with fat ratios, and that also determines what cut you're getting. Also, of course, cut is mostly coming from where it's cut on the cow, but all of those things kind of work together. You're talking tenderness has to do with fat, and fat has to do with the cut, and it all works together for the good of our bellies.
If I remember, I want to say this the right way, but from what I have heard, the further the meat is from the hoof and the horn, the more tender it is. And the closer it is to the hoof or the horn, the tougher the cut of meat is. And I'm looking at one here, and that does seem like that would go right along with it.
They're the muscles that are moving.
Yeah.
They're always kind of moving, and movement equals tender, and you got muscle fat and stuff like that that's building up there.
I've got some friends that they're like, man, sirloin steak is the best thing ever. And I'm like, have you not heard of ribeye? Or they're like, oh, no. It's so fatty, and fat is nasty, and it's just all gristly and everything. I'm like, hang on a second.
Fat is flavor.
I don't think that you've had a properly cooked steak, if that's what you think. Because, yes, you can get that, but the fat is absolutely crucial to creating a more tender steak.
And before we get into cuts, also, we have to say something also. The temperature at which you have your steak, we judge you on that. If you are eating a steak well done, go home.
Yep.
Do not waste your money at a restaurant. Now, I know what some people are already saying. Look, I can do what I want to. You're right.
Well, at some restaurants they can't.
That's also true.
Some of them be like, no, sir, you cannot cook your steak.
It's your money. If you want to waste it, by all means. But let me just tell you and trust your pals Craig and Aaron. Anything above medium. I mean, medium well, okay, fine, I guess. But like anything above medium.
That medium rare to medium stage.
Oh, man.
I think that's your sweet spot. And I know some people are like, oh, you got to have rare steak. And I'm okay with the people who want rare steak, that's fine. But there's also something to be said for there is a point at which your steak, some special things happen to it when it's cooking that it doesn't have enough of done if you cook it too rare.
Yeah.
And it obviously overdoes it if you cook it too long. Like a ribeye steak, I've heard some top chefs say, don't order a ribeye steak medium rare because it has so much fat in it.
Yeah.
It needs time to render and melt that fat out, or else you are going to get an unpleasant experience when you eat that steak.
You don't want a blue steak.
cook that ribeye, up there to medium.
Yeah.
It's going to be super juicy.
And there's strategy involved too. If you're doing takeout steaks, I always go medium rare on a takeout.
Yep.
Because it's going to sit and steam, and it's going to cook.
That temperature's going to go up.
You've got to. That is definitely the sweet spot for sure. Is to get that on there. You want a good crust too. Like you want a nice sear on it. You want good flavor, but you can't order it well done. You just can't.
I finally talked to a friend a year or so ago who always ordered overdone steaks. I finally convinced him to try a steak cooked medium. So he did, and he's like, I hope I hope you know what you're talking about. And he just sent a text the other day, as this was a year or two ago, and he's like, I still can't believe I had never had a steak cooked to medium temperature. He's like, it's been life-changing. I didn't know steak could be so good. I was like, yes, that's what he was like, well, I just don't like all the blood in my steak.
And that's the next point I wanted to bring up.
Fantastic. Okay, yeah, explain to people.
It's not blood. So many people think if I order my steak medium rare or medium, that it's and when I cut into it, it's just blood everywhere. It's not blood. That would not even work. What it is, and I made sure to get this right on here, okay? What you're looking at is a combination of water, which makes up about 75% of meat, and a protein in muscle tissue called myoglobin. All right.
Yes.
So this is not blood. So if that's been your biggest hang up in ordering a steak that is under well done, medium well, we can put your mind at ease. That is not blood.
It's juice.
It's juice. It's flavor.
So, because the people who order well done steaks, they're like, hey, you got some A1 or some Heinz 57 you can bring me to the table. I'm always like, hey, hang on a second.
Yeah.
If you need steak sauce for your steak,
that's the rule.
You don't need to eat steak at wherever you just got it.
Yeah.
And it could be your fault. You may have overcooked steak.
I've done that too. I overcook steak a lot, unfortunately.
Steak creates its own steak sauce. It's called this juice right here.
Yeah, myoglobin.
When you let that set on the plate and then you cut that steak and you drag it through that, you don't need other stuff to go on it. It's perfect the way that it is.
And you have to, by letting it rest, as hard as that is to do.
Don't just bring it in off the grill and cut into it.
Even just a few minutes, okay? It's still going to be warm.
5 minutes.
It's still going to be hot. That was always my worry. I would always cut into a steak too early, and you got juices everywhere, and your steak bite isn't as good.
Here's the other pro tip on cooking a steak: pull it off 5 degrees from where. If you want the steak at 135 degrees, pull it off at 130.
Yep.
Because while it sits for 5 minutes, that temp's going to keep climbing.
Yeah. To give you an analogy, it's like taking a really hot shower, and your bathroom steams up, and then you get out of the shower. If you want to cool off quickly, you have to open the door. But if you want to sit in the sauna for a little bit, you got to leave the door closed.
Yeah.
How's that? You didn't expect an analogy from the bathroom.
Look at that. Do you know how many cattle ranchers and producers there are in the United States? It's not a billion, okay? We don't have a billion of them in the U.S.
Well, there's how many? You said there was like how many cattle?
95 million cattle.
Okay, so how many ranchers are there?
How many ranchers are there?
7. Okay. I overcorrected. I'm going to guess...
I'm gonna help you out here. You can do a little math and see how close you can get to this.
That doesn't help me.
That's why I feel safe giving you the number. The average herd of cattle in the United States, this was in 2017,
okay,
was 43 and a half cows.
That's it? Really?
43 and a half. I'm just worried about that half cow that's out there running around. But yes, 43.5 cows was the average herd size.
43.
So how many
43
ranchers
divided by 90-something million?
Yeah. So there you go.
I'm gonna guess. I can't do math. I'm gonna say 12.9 million.
I like how you came down on that number finally. You still way over though. You kill me. Because I'm like, wow, that's a lot of farmers.
Yeah,
right
I guess
here
if I just divided
and then I'm
that,
like, okay, well,
that math doesn't work out. Don't judge me for my math skills. Okay?
800,000 ranchers and cattle producers.
It just clicked, dude. You got to go under 1 million to get that number.
Yes. I'm going to give you an easy one here. I think.
Okay.
How many states in the U.S. raise cattle?
Oh, I'm gonna guess. To produce, like to
just how many states in the United States are raising?
Man, I want to say 50, but I'm gonna hedge my bets a little bit and go 45.
45?
Yeah.
You would have been right if you would have just said all 50.
Oh man,
all 50 states are raising beef cattle.
I thought maybe Hawaii may be the outlier.
Sure.
And maybe some of these other pockets, Rhode Island. I didn't know if they had enough space, but like, okay.
Did you know that we have several of our presidents who have been ranchers and farmers?
That makes sense. Most famously, George W.
Yes. He was a big-time farmer. 16 of our presidents have experienced farming and ranching, including good old Teddy Roosevelt, who owned at one point over 5,000 cattle up there in the Dakota Badlands.
He's over the average.
Yes, 43 and a half. That's the average. Teddy Roosevelt, 5,000.
That's funny. Also, when it comes to grilling, we got to talk burgers, which we didn't go through the cuts of steak. You want to go through the cuts?
Yeah. Let me get that.
Let's backtrack and talk about steak cuts.
You got the sirloin. It's your cheap cut of steak. It doesn't mean it's bad. I've had some good sirloins.
It's under that, I think, would be also your flat iron, your stuff like that.
Yeah. You got skirt steak, flat iron steak. Some of those really, they are tough cuts of meat.
Yeah.
You could use those in like fajitas, things. There are some.
You're not eating it by itself, probably.
More than likely.
But this is just pure steak cuts.
The ones that we think of, you got your sirloin, your T-bone,
right,
the ribeye. And then the filet or tenderloin. Mm-hmm. Those are your 4 big.
And honestly, if you want to save a little money, get a T-bone and butcher it up. Cut those 2 pieces off. You might save a little bit of money
because
by doing it yourself.
The T-bone includes the strip.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you get your New York strip from.
Yep.
And then it's got a little section of that filet over there. That's really good.
Yeah.
What is your go-to cut of steak?
Ribeye.
Absolutely.
all day long. You know, a filet is just not. It's good, but it's not worth it for me. That sounds that may be sacrilegious to some people, but it's just not worth it for me.
So, as he said a few minutes ago, fat equals flavor.
Yeah.
Filet is known as sort of the Cadillac of cuts of meat, but there's very little fat in the filet.
Yeah.
It's super lean, but it's very tender.
It is very tender.
It's super expensive.
Yeah.
But
It's the most pure, right?
Yes. But it lacks some beefy flavor that the ribeye gives you from that fat that's all throughout the grain.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I was going to say a few minutes ago that I noticed when Walmart started carrying prime. You can go pick up a prime ribeye steak that's, inch and a half thick, 2 inches, and it'll have white flecks all the way through it. That's not gristle. That's not tough. That's the intramuscular fat inside the steak. I have had prime steak from Walmart. People's like, oh man, you can't get good meat at Walmart. I've gone to some butcher shops and had expensive ribeyes cut that were not prime grade.
Yeah.
And I've had the Walmart prime grade that was cheaper.
Yeah.
And the Walmart steak, vastly superior for one reason, fat.
That is flavor.
So,
I know ribeyes yours also, right?
yes.
A New York strip is also good. It's got a little way less fat, but it's because it's right there next to that fillet. You can get same amount of tenderness, but you lose out on a little bit of the flavor. You gotta season it up a little bit more, but it's also really good.
I think with like a ribeye, anytime we make one, we use 3 things on it: salt, pepper, and garlic powder.
Yep.
And that's really all it needs.
That's all you need.
It does the rest of the heavy lifting itself.
You can do others. I like to do a coffee rub sometimes.
Sure.
But yeah, that's really all you need to have. We also need to talk about Wagyu.
That's, yes. See, it's Japanese cattle, right?
Yeah.
It's a Japanese variety.
You've got Wagyu. You've got Angus. There's different variations. Like this goes deep. Like there's different ways you can do this as well.
The Wagyu has a super high fat content.
Very high.
Some of the steaks, when you see the real deal, and some places will advertise it, and it's not the real deal stuff.
When it's American Wagyu.
Yes. When you see the real deal Kobe, things like that, beef, sometimes the steaks almost look white. Like there's more fat to it than there is meat. And it's typically not a steak where you just order that and would sit down and eat the whole thing, because it's going to be very rich.
Yeah.
You're looking for applications where you're just going to have a little bit of that in there.
And if you go to a Japanese place and they've got that, you're probably getting very small strips.
Yep.
Because it's very expensive.
Oh, it is.
You're talking $500, just for a small piece. But yeah, so you can go super expensive on that. Yeah, so good. And we touched on smoked, but like your brisket, your beef ribs, like dinosaur ribs kind of thing. Those are a little tougher, but they're equally good.
Brisket, I feel like is the king of barbecue.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue ribs or pulled pork, but brisket, when you do it right,
it's hard to get brisket right.
Yeah. It's very difficult.
That's one that you don't just do it the first time and it's like, oh, I nailed it. No. There's a lot of work. Pulled pork, Boston butt's very forgiving.
Very forgiving.
Ribs are pretty easy to get. Brisket is a learning curve.
You can cover
brisket.
up ribs with sauce.
Brisket, when you have an overcooked, incorrectly cooked brisket, you're going to know it.
That's why the best barbecue places get their brisket, and that'll tell you how good they are.
Yeah.
That's why all these world championship places tout their brisket, because that's the hardest thing probably to do, and probably the most delicious when you can nail it.
And it's time consuming. I mean, you're spending 18 hours probably on a cook for brisket, 14 to 18 hours depending on the size of it. They're not easy to there's a lot of fat you got to trim off of them.
It's a lot of work.
It's a process. I have done a few briskets. I've done some that I've felt like have been good, but there's still a lot of improvement in my brisket game, and I love watching guys do it. I just haven't done it very well, but I love the to me, brisket is fun because there's that challenge each time I come back to it of, okay, how can I improve the brisket this time?
Right. Something that's a good transition to go from grilling to sautéing in a pan would be burgers.
Yeah.
Because you can do that inside, and they're better outside on a grill. But burgers, I mean, I've said this before. I've made it very well known and established here that burgers are probably a top 5 food for me. Beef takes up 2 spots in my top 5. And burgers are definitely up there. I love burgers.
And I have said burgers are not a top 10 food. They fall out of the top 10 just because they're so average. There's nothing special about a burger.
But you can do so much. You can do so much, and they can be. I still argue the most average burger is going to be way better than a lot of the most average things out there. Like, it's great. It's juicy. It's cheesy. You can add fresh stuff to it. You can dress it up in different ways. You can apply different types of buns. It's incredible. And if you,
it's very versatile.
It's very versatile. You can ground up your own, and that's the ticket. Like that's so much
no
better.
doubt. You can make a really good burger.
And you do a ground beef brisket burger.
When you add brisket to a burger, special things happen.
Yeah, because you get the fat in there. It's just it does a lot of stuff. So burgers for me, they're a top 5 food.
But burgers in the winter, you may not be out grilling, so
I'll do it on a pan, sautéing in my house.
You can. I love a cast iron burger. If you've got one of those flat top griddles,
yeah.
There's times when I feel like I almost might like a smash style burger better than a charcoal. I go back and forth on it because you get that crust with a flat top burger.
You get one of those grilling mats, and you get to the best of both worlds.
Oh, that's true.
Smash it on there on the mat. So very versatile. Smash burgers are great. You get the crispy, crusty parts.
Yeah.
You get some melty cheese on there.
I like a thick pub style burger occasionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know people are like, oh, I hate thick burgers. They're nasty.
No, they're great.
I mean, I'm not as much of a burger hater as I sound like saying it's not a top 10 food. I like all kinds of burgers, like a Juicy Lucy, stuff that thing with cheese.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, I love a Juicy Lucy.
Yeah, burgers they're fun. There's a lot of things you can do with them. There's a lot of methods that you can use in cooking them.
And it's really hard to mess one up. You can. Yeah. You can. I've had some bad burgers before.
As long as they're not like charred hockey pucks.
Yeah.
Other than that, or it's just like completely raw in the middle.
Yeah.
If you don't go to one of those two extremes,
right,
you're in a very forgiving space where it's okay.
So let's talk about sautéing, okay? Sautéed beef. Now, this is a lot of the things that we've talked about can be applied to a pan. You can do a burger. You can do a burger in a pan, sauté it. You can do steak in a pan. You can do a lot of these things on there. When I'm thinking of sauté, I'm thinking like, strips of beef for like an Asian dish, like a beef and broccoli type of situation or something like that. That's usually what I go to when I think of beef on a pan.
I think of beef stroganoff as well.
Yeah?
That's what I think of.
Fajitas.
Yep, fajitas. Again, something else can be done on a grill as well. Hamburger helper.
Oh, yeah.
That's beef in a pan. It's not very good beef in a pan when you use that. But
chili. That's a stew we didn't mention.
Yes. How did we forget that?
I'm making chili this weekend.
Yeah, I've got some where I'm in a small church-wide chili cook-off this weekend, and I've got what I hope is a winning recipe this year. I've done some special things, taken extra special care, made my own roasted chili paste in it.
But you start that on a pan,
Yeah. You got to brown up that beef.
Mm-hmm.
What else have we forgotten? Because we're going to get down this list.
Yeah, one, I need to look at my extra little list here and make sure I didn't miss anything. Roast beef. Speaking of roasting, we missed that earlier. A roast beef is good because you can use it on a sandwich.
Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead, because I think I know where you're going.
Chicken fried steak.
That's not where I thought you were going.
No.
It's got to be done right. That's easy to mess up because you can overcook the mess out of that steak.
You think?
Yeah. I've had some very tough
Chewy?
chicken fried steak. Yes, very chewy.
I have too. One of the
You got
worst
to tenderize it the right way.
was at a truck stop in Kansas. That should tell you that we were in for a bad meal.
Yeah.
And it was the worst chicken fried steak I've ever had. But you get a good chicken fried steak.
Yeah. Do it the right way.
Texas knows what they're doing then when they get you get the beef and the fried chicken coating, you put it together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
The other one that we didn't mention, that the other one I had on my list, was hot dogs. Beef hot dogs, all beef hot dogs.
Okay.
I know most people, when they think of hot dogs, you're thinking of mixtures of different, but
right.
Those all beef. Was it Hebrew National?
Hebrew National.
Those are fantastic.
Nathan's.
Yeah. Love them.
There's some other specialty.
They're definitely the better ones that you can get out there. Anything else we're missing?
Well,
I've got some worsts, but
okay. Well, I've got another fact for you.
okay.
Where does the U.S. rank in the world for the amount of beef eaten per capita?
Oh man, I want to say one, but Brazil and China also enjoy their beef, and China has more. I'm going to say number one though.
We are fourth.
Really?
We are fourth in the world.
China's ahead of us. Yes.
Hong Kong is ahead of us.
Okay.
At
wow.
114.
Hong Kong itself?
That's what it says.
Wow.
Hong Kong, 114.3 pounds. Argentina comes in at 120.2
Really?
pounds. And number one is Uruguay at 124.2 pounds.
I did not see that coming.
Per capita. The biggest importers of U.S. beef, Japan, South Korea, and Mexico.
Japan is the biggest for importing U.S. beef?
Yep.
Well, they've got a good thing going over there. Why are they importing ours?
Japan, South Korea, and Mexico.
I can get Mexico, but Japan surprises me.
How many pounds of beef per year does the average American consume?
Per year. The average American?
Yep.
So a single person.
Yep.
I was about to go nationwide. That would have been way too many for a single person. 500 million for a person? The average person, I'm going to guess 6.3 pounds per person. Thinking a couple steaks, burgers.
Okay. Well, every day in America, 76 million Americans eat beef, and they consume on average 112 pounds of beef per year.
Wow.
I mean, just think about it, though. If you're going to have tacos, how many tacos are you going to eat?
2, maybe 3 if I'm feeling it.
Sure. Maybe 4.
I mean, the right day, 5.
You're probably eating somewhere between a quarter and a half a pound of beef with your tacos.
Yeah.
Each time you eat tacos.
I guess I was trying to think of the averages. Like,
you think of a hamburger.
I'm going to eat that 150 easy, but like, there's vegans out there. There's people like that who don't touch red meat. So I was trying to. I guess
76 million people are eating it.
It's still a lot. Wow.
That's a lot. Let's see. I had one more fun little thing here.
And there's no wonder why, fast food places are trying to push chicken and trying to do that because, that greenhouse gases and stuff like that, cattle production and things like that, there's climate change that they're trying to tie that into. And if that many people, if that's how much beef each person on average is eating, my goodness, like that's a lot of cows.
You mentioned fast food, and the very next one is about fast food. It says 70% of fast food service operators say that steak on the menu increases their traffic. I'm just food service operators.
So like if Hardee's comes out with a steak sandwich,
traffic goes up.
I believe it. I mean, if I heard that Burger King has this new steak burger where their ground beef is mixed in with ribeye steak.
I mean, you think
I'm going to go try it.
Taco Bell's always promoting their steak items that they've got.
It's true. Wow.
You see Subway advertising steak sandwiches,
Yeah.
things like that. So
Makes sense.
they say foot traffic increases when they have beef, yet they're really throwing the chicken out there. Okay, here was the last fun tidbit that I had for you. We need iron in our diet. And
Accurate.
beef is a great source of iron. Did you know that you would have to eat 3 cups of raw spinach in order to get the same amount of iron that 1 3-ounce serving of beef had?
Take that, vegetarians.
That's why beef is better. What would you like? Some steak or, eat 3 cups of spinach?
I used to have a friend who was vegan, and he was vegan by choice, so it wasn't like a dietary thing. And I used to work with him, and every year on his birthday, he would say, "That's the one day a year I'm going to choose to eat beef." And he would go hard too. Like, this was we called it Meat Fest. Like,
Okay.
we would take him to a steakhouse, and he would get a huge steak. And we didn't see him for a couple days after his birthday. Because you can imagine what going from 0 to 1,000, on the beef scale is going to do to a bottom. A bottom. I meant a body, but it was a Freudian slip that actually worked out.
Exactly.
But I mean, that was I always applauded it. Like, we rooted for him hard on those days because, like, that's what you want to see. You want, and he always loved it. Like, it was not something he was like, "Oh, gross." No, he was very thankful for those days. Personal opinion. I don't know how you can do it. I don't know how you can go without beef.
Look, I've tried the Impossible Burger.
Oh,
and
it's terrible.
It's not. It's not beef.
Maybe
okay?
if you've never had beef, if you were a vegetarian or vegan your whole life and you tried that just to see what all the hype about beef was about, and you're like, "Oh, this is good." Yeah, you just wait till you have the real stuff. Because it's not even kind of close.
No. And then when you talk about a beef animal, it says that 98% of a beef animal is used. There's so many other things that you do with the...
That's true.
You can make 18 soccer balls or 20 footballs out of 1 cowhide.
Yeah.
If you like gummy bears, you like marshmallows...
Guess what?
They make them from cattle. The gelatin and stuff that's in those, like beef marrow.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
There's so many things you can do with beef.
Beef. It's what's for dinner, man.
Yes.
It's probably what a lot of you are going to have for dinner.
Oh, it's what I want now.
All right. Let's hear some stuff that you've got to talk about.
We love hearing you talk about us. It's time for the best things about the best things. Want to hear your feedback on the show? Email us at feedback@bestthingspod.com, tweet at us at bestthingspod, or leave us a review.
All right. I'm going to read a message that we got from Richard Eberly. Sent a message about the pod. He said, "Hey, I'm enjoying your podcast. I just started listening to it, and it's been really good, and I've laughed a lot. I work by myself all day, every day, and I'm about to listen to every other," he said sermons, because I think he's a pastor, "on the internet. So this has been a good change for me. Keep it up. I'm listening to the cookies episode right now."
Oh,
That was a good one.
that was the day that chocolate chip cookies began their reign. So
How full circle is it? It comes on the day it could end.
It could. It could.
Thanks, Richard, for the kind message. We appreciate it. If you want to send us your opinion or your message on if you enjoy the podcast or if you don't, why are you still listening if you don't like it? Send us your feedback at bestthingspod.com. Hit us up on all the socials. You heard the little intro thing. Let us know all the different ways. We'd love hearing your feedback and reading it on the air. So makes our day. Okay. I got a couple worse things.
Yes.
And so we need to talk about it.
Welcome to the best things.
No. These aren't the best things. These are the worst things.
Okay, when it comes to the worst things about beef, there are some things that are less desirable. Before I get into specific things about beef itself, we've already mentioned a little bit, but one of the worst things is overcooking your beef.
Absolutely.
Don't do well done. Just don't do it.
No.
What do you have on your list?
Well, this is one I didn't know I was going to add until I popped it up. I went to beefitswhatsfordinner.com and Tony Romo's face came up as soon as I went to the website. And I'm not a Tony Romo fan.
No, never.
That's the worst. I don't want Tony Romo to be the face of beef. It's what's for dinner.
I'm going to throw Salisbury steak.
Don't you dare.
I'm going to throw Salisbury steak.
Get Salisbury steak's name out your mouth. No.
Mainly because I probably have not. I don't think I've had a
good one. Okay.
Most of them are like the frozen dinner or the middle school cafeteria. That
frozen dinner, Salisbury steak, I will allow. But, good sir, I tell you with all of my being that I can serve you a really good Salisbury steak.
Okay.
That's one of our favorite things that we cook is our Salisbury steak.
This is just a ploy for me to get Aaron to make me some food. I really don't have an opinion here. I just really wanted to. What else you got? Because I've got two other big ones.
Okay, steak tartare.
Get steak tartare's name out your mouth.
I don't like raw beef.
I mean, it's not as good as like a tuna tartare, but
I have had
or chicken tartare.
You like that one?
Yeah,
real good.
Legal disclaimer: please do not have chicken tartare. That's raw chicken. It could kill you. The Best Things podcast is not liable for anything that may happen because you ate raw chicken. You weirdo.
It's like that TikTok thing that was going on a couple years ago where they were like, "Oh, medium rare chicken." This is like, what? Have you seen Gordon Ramsay's reaction to people doing that?
Yeah.
It's hilarious. No, I have had this served to me, and it's just you put a raw egg in it. Or you serve a raw quail egg on top of it. It's this little round of just raw steak or meat.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's like I'm not ready to put it on my worst things, but I absolutely get it. It's not the best thing for sure. What about a beef tongue?
I'm glad that you mentioned this. I think it is one of the most underappreciated parts of the cow. The same day that I was in the store last week looking at those short ribs, right next to it was a beef tongue. I had it in my hand, almost put it in the cart and was like, I just can't spend the money on it today. I'm going to put it back. Are you putting the tongue on your worst list?
Just because I have not had it done. I've had it one time and it was not good. So, yes, I'm judging it prematurely.
When it is done correctly, it is like the most tender, shreddable pot roast that exists.
Okay. I had it way overcooked then because it was tough.
Okay. You can have bad beef tongue, and if somebody doesn't prepare it right,
I just don't like French kissing a cow.
Taste buds off of it. But once you get down to the actual meat, it's really nice.
Okay.
I would like to add beef liver to the list.
That's a worthy place to put, yeah. I am not an organ fan.
Organ meat is a no bueno for me.
Yeah.
It's if you're looking for your source of iron, that's where you need to go.
There it is. And you taste every gram of it.
I can't do that. I can't do... Mm-mm.
Speaking of things I can't do, mountain oysters.
Okay. I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Cover the little ears because I'm just going to say what it is. Beef testicle.
Disties.
No bueno. I have had decent mountain oyster before. The second time believe it or not, I've had this more than once.
It's on your worst list if you eat it more than once. Hang on, what? What? Oh, man.
The first time I ever had it, it was not terrible. It didn't make me gag or anything like that. But the story goes, I had this also in China twice. The first time I had it, a friend of ours pulled a prank on me. And he said, this is delicacy. It's so good and it's delicious. And it was a hot pot. We did a hot pot. Went to a hot pot place. If you're not familiar with hot pot, it's a communal thing. It's kind of like a hibachi place, but instead of the person grilling on a flat top, you kind of cook yourself. Now, you don't cook yourself. You cook for yourself. There's a giant pot of broth in the middle of the table. They bring you raw ingredients. You put the raw ingredients in the broth, and you pull them out and eat them. And here are these bull pieces, these pieces of a cow, and we put them in. He goes, "Come on, you do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, you know what? When in Rome, or in this case, China." And I put it in there, and I said, "How long does this stay?" He goes, "Oh, just 2-3 minutes." So we wait. He said, "They're ready now." I pull it out. Still kind of raw. It was like a fruit gusher in my mouth when I bit into it. And so I found out later on they need to cook a little longer than that, but still was not great afterwards. So yes, I've had that like 3 times, and they definitely deserve to be on the worst list. Although I have heard of, like I said, the first time I had it was not terrible, but not good. It's not good.
Menudo.
Gesundheit.
It is a soup, probably found in Mexico, possibly other Central or South American countries.
Okay.
That uses the cow's stomach and beef tripe, other things like that. I'm trying to find. I remember watching an episode of Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmern, and I can't remember if it was menudo or some other dish, but it had fresh intestines that he was eating from the cow.
Which we could probably no, that's lamb. I was about to say we could add haggis to that.
Yes, but he said that there was a definite taste of poo. As he was eating that, and he eats a lot of nasty things, but that appeared to be one of the worst that he had ever eaten.
I can imagine.
I ain't getting down with that.
No, not getting down with that. You got anything else on the worst?
Nope.
Okay. Oh man, cookies. Your time is coming to an end. I have a feeling. Let's do it.
If you want to be the best, you have to beat the rest. This is the Best Things Bracket.
All right, I had first pick last week with our Halloween episode. Aaron gets first pick this week. I have a feeling I know what's coming.
Are we going to pick beef dishes at this point?
Yes, so we're going to pick our favorite beef thing. And I would say we need to be specific.
Okay.
Especially with our cuts and things like that.
Okay, so before we do that, do we need to say what our favorite method of cooking the beef is? We went through all of those.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific method that you...
It's grilling. It's grilling for sure. 100%. I would even say charcoal grilling has the best flavor.
It does. Gas grill just doesn't replicate.
It's easier, and you get great flavor, but charcoal...
When we like to do lump charcoal, throw a little chunk of mesquite wood on there.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a good steak.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So I get number 1.
You get number 1. What is it?
Okay, how about a grilled, medium temp, ribeye, on the bone steak?
Did you see I already had it typed in?
Did you really?
I wasn't even going to listen till you finish it. I knew it was coming.
Well, you said be specific, so I wanted to get every single part of that specific, in there.
Okay, number 2, a medium rare gas grilled bone out ribeye. 1 for me.
Let's just pick 8 varieties of ribeye steak.
I'm gonna go short ribs.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Short ribs with my number 1. Your second.
Brisket.
That's good. Risky. I'm assuming smoked.
Yeah. Smoked brisket. The king of barbecue, as I declared.
You're going to disagree, but I'm going burger in the 2 spot.
I understand it.
All right. Your third, my good friend.
Chili.
Oh, great call. Just
let me explain to
just a great
our
call.
friends out in internet land what I did a couple weeks ago. I had smoked a brisket. There's a lot of meat there.
Mm-hmm.
I had some leftover brisket. I made nice big cubes, some nice big cubes, made a ground beef chili, some sirloin, some ground brisket in there with it. Created my chili, and then I dropped in those cubes of smoked brisket into the pot.
Preach.
Let that thing cook away for like 2.5, 3 hours in the oven. It was some of the best chili I've ever had.
Yeah.
Having that brisket that was smoked in there with it. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
so good.
Man. I'm having chili this weekend and I can't wait. Okay, third for me, this is a tough one, but I'm going to go roast beef.
Good old-fashioned roast beef.
Yeah. Roast beef, mainly because it can be great on its own, but then, man, you apply it to sandwiches, you got something special. Your fourth and final.
I am torn right here.
Are you?
I've got two things I want to see make it, and I'm going to root for one that you choose the other.
Okay.
I want you to put...
No, don't tell me what you want me to put.
In my spot.
What are you putting?
I want beef tacos.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that coming. But that's a great pick. Because ground beef tacos, brisket tacos, steak tacos, fantastic.
I've never had a bad beef taco. I've had a beef tongue taco that's
really
shredded beef tacos.
Wow. Yeah. You can't go wrong. Number 4, my last one. I don't know if this is what you're wanting or not, but it's the one I'm putting in here.
Come on.
It wasn't that close, but I had a brief moment of thought, maybe beef Wellington, but I've never had that.
You've never had that.
So we got to put meatloaf.
Yes!
That was 4.
That was it. Let's go.
And honestly, it might deserve to be higher up.
I think it does.
I would almost, in hindsight, maybe put it ahead of roast beef.
I think
I'm doing it.
I think you should retroactively do that.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I don't think it goes above. It would go above burger for you. I have a feeling.
Yeah,
but
again, because this is a dish that I used to not like to now I love.
Yeah,
I love it. When you take it out of the oven and eat it, it's fantastic. Then you eat it the next day. Its second preparation is a meatloaf sandwich. It does double duty.
It does double. And if you really want something special, we had this at shout out Logan Steakhouse, not a sponsor. They had, I don't know if they still have it, maybe in the limited time thing. They had meatloaf sliders. It was like a Hawaiian roll with meatloaf, mashed potato, and some kind of amazing glaze on it. And it may have had some pickled onion on there also, which
I could get down with that.
It's just incredible. Okay, we've got a bracket here. This is going to be hard, but we have.
Let's make them all winners. I choose them all.
We can't do that. We have short ribs versus beef tacos.
I hate this.
Short ribs versus tacos.
It's impossible.
No, it's not. It's possible. And we have to do it in 3.
Which one are we? We're just saying it.
We're just saying.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Short
Tacos.
ribs. Come on, man.
They're both amazing. I could not imagine life without tacos, though.
Man.
Let me persuade you.
Okay.
Because of all the different varieties of tacos we just mentioned, ground beef, brisket, shredded beef, tongue, steak. You can do all these different varieties of tacos, which I think elevates it above what just the short rib, which is so amazing in and of itself. But all the versatility that the taco brings you. There's Taco Tuesday. You don't hear of short rib Saturday, although we should make that a thing. Why aren't we having short rib Saturday or short rib Sunday?
All right, we got to make a decision. Here we go. Short ribs, 1 to 10. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, 10. 18. Tacos, 3, 2, 1,
10.
8. Okay.
Gets us nowhere.
1 to 100. Short ribs, 3, 2, 1, 95. So that's 185. Tacos, 3, 2, 1, 87. I can't do that math. 87, 90, what? 9? 99.
I think
87.
we have a tie at 185.
No way. people who are really good at math.
They're screaming at us. Hang on, I forgot what the numbers even were.
186. Tacos barely.
Oh my gosh, by one.
By one. Scoots it out. Unless our math is wrong, but we don't care at this point. Okay, ribeye steak versus roast beef. 3, 2, 1.
Ribeye.
Yeah, not even close. I mean, they're both fantastic. Ribeye, way up. Okay, burger versus chili. I'm in trouble. Okay, burger or chili. 3, 2, 1.
Chili.
Burger. All right, burger 1 to 10. 3, 2, 1.
7.
10.
You did that on purpose.
You did that on purpose.
I feel 7 is a great place for the burger.
Mm-hmm.
That's above average.
Okay, chili. 3, 2, 1.
8.
1.
Come on now.
I would give chili an 8. So that's a 16.
Yes.
And burger was
17.
okay. And so I'm not trying to cheat the system when I give it an 8 because I can't do math that well to know if it does it or not. Obviously, numbers. Hey. I have a problem with numbers.
Why'd you move burger ahead?
I thought that's what we said. What did you give burger? I gave it a 10. You gave it a 7. And then I gave chili an 8.
And I gave it an 8.
That's 16.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, brisket versus meatloaf. 3, 2, 1. Brisket. I love meatloaf. Worthy to be on this list, but it's not. Okay, we got to get tacos and burgers out of the way. 3, 2, 1.
Tacos.
Burger. 1 to 10 tacos. 3, 2, 1.
10.
9. Burgers. 3, 2, 1. 10. 8. Yeah, okay. I knew that wasn't going to go my way. All right, ribeyes versus brisket.
We already know.
It's ribeye.
Brisket's amazing, but ribeye goes...
Ribeye versus taco.
I mean, it's. I love tacos, but I'm not giving up my ribeye steaks.
So congratulations, ribeye.
I knew this is where this was headed from the very beginning.
We all did.
When we hit record, I knew ribeye steak was going to be the winner.
We're going to play this bug in the background because it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
We're really just doing this because
chocolate chip cookies.
You had a good run.
You did.
It was fine.
I'm crowning you the king of cookies. Yeah,
desserts.
Maybe all desserts.
Yeah.
I could get down with that, but I mean, I'm going to choose savory over sweet here.
Char grilled, medium rare to medium.
I would hands down live the rest of my life to not have chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
To have ribeye steak.
Yeah, winner.
It's just
running away with it. Like Duke in Arkansas in the Elite Eight.
That's right. And
worthy adversary, not coming close.
Ribeye steak, I have a feeling, is going to make the Hall of Fame. This thing's going to be on
That's
going
to be really hard for it to be overtaken. Yeah. I mean, we've got Thanksgiving coming up. But I don't think there's anything Thanksgiving can throw at a ribeye steak.
I love turkey. I love macaroni and cheese. I love dressing. I love green bean. Ain't none of those.
No.
If you told me, hey, for Thanksgiving this year, we're gonna grill ribeye steaks, I'd be like, heck yeah, let's get down with that.
Let's go. All right, that's it. We got it. Ribeye steak reigning supreme. You're about to. We got to give it 5 weeks, but. You're going to have a place. I'm pretty confident in this.
What else has made it? Only 2 things?
Your team's success in Washington, D.C.
Which still surprising.
And I'm still salty about D.C. being there. I feel like something should have overtaken it at some point, but...
Ribeye steak might have.
It 100% would have. I would have made sure of it.
I would take my team's success over ribeye steak, I think. Wouldn't you?
It'd be closer, way closer than cookies.
Oh,
all right. You got anything else?
Nothing other than I got to go get the grill fired up.
Oh yeah. All right. That'll do it for the best things. I'm Craig.
I'm Aaron.
We'll talk at you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Best Things Podcast. If you like today's episode, subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening now. And remember, Connect with us on the socials at Best Things Pod, and you may hear your take on an upcoming episode.